Just wanted to say just a few words because when I was looking at your bio, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but your responsibilities it is amazing. So, if I may, Admiral Stephen P. Metruck assumed command of the 5th Coast Guard District in April 2014. In this capacity, he has the overall responsibility for the full range of Coast Guard maritime safety and security missions carried out in the Mid-Atlantic region from central New Jersey through North Carolina. This area encompasses 156,000 square miles of ocean, bays, and rivers that are unique, filled with historical significance. Several major Mid-Atlantic ports, the largest naval base in the world, and our nation's capital. Admiral Metruck leads 67 units made up of 2,475 active duty members, 1,010 reservists, and 6,800 auxiliary members, and 120 civilians. Your retirement and change of command is scheduled for April 22nd. We know your schedule is compressed, and we are honored that you're here with us here today, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great. It's good to see. Good to see lots of familiar faces around here. Appreciate the time. Yeah, with the schedule, that we're looking at, I was scheduled to speak tomorrow with something on my calendar. I have a commitment that I have to take care of up in D.C. And so I appreciate the accommodation to come and talk to you this afternoon and just say some remarks. And so I didn't hear all of Captain Harrison's remarks. I'm sure they were riveting, and I know that I'm sure they made you laugh, made you cry, and then standing ovation usually at the end when he speaks. So, but it's great. It's been a real privilege, coming up on 2 years now to be here in the 5th District. And it's great to see Captain Dufresne and Captain Keene here as well, because it's really, the 5th District is really a special place in the Mid-Atlantic to be able to serve, to see all the great professionals that we have here, and to see, and I include that, all the great professionals both on the active duty side, the reserve side, the civilian side, and the auxiliary side to do that. And we really couldn't do what we do in the Coast Guard without the support from all those different functions. And the auxiliary continues to be that force multiplier for here in the 5th District. And I'll say I'll just reflect on, wherever I've been in the Coast Guard, which includes a lot of time on the West Coast, a little bit of time in the Gulf Coast, in the Great Lakes, and here in the Mid-Atlantic. And I spent some time in New York too, so I've been all around. And the same folks that are motivated here in the auxiliary, I see throughout the entire Coast Guard. And the work that you do here is on par with the best that I've seen, and throughout the nation. So I think and that's a tribute to everyone here in the room and all the hard work that goes into this. When I drive up and I see all those cars and I see, but I have to say too, this is not a bad place. I don't know who got the contract here, but you're doing pretty good. This is a team effort, but I think that this is a great place because it really, when you have a nice environment like this, it really makes everything worthwhile for that. And I think that it shows that you really care about what you're doing. But when I come in and I see you got a hard week, you're giving up your time. Not only do you give up time to do your auxiliary work, you give up time to work on the auxiliary as well. So it's both the function, but then the time that you're putting into it to make the success that it is. And it doesn't happen unless everybody here is working as hard as they do to make sure the management of the auxiliary happens. So that's really impressive to me. And I think it's the auxiliary continues to be one of the great volunteer organizations in the nation, really, and I would say internationally as well, to do that. So I think a couple things that I do want to mention, and if you've ever been, the Commodores have been in those meetings when we're talking about some of the things that are affecting the Coast Guard. Right now, we continue to be on budgetary pressures. We have a decent deal for the next 2 years of the Budget Control Act, a little bit of relief on a budget deal that's coming up. And the President just announced his budget for 17. We have the budget for 16 is in effect right now. And we're doing okay with those, but there continues to be pressures because we have a lot of needs within the the Coast Guard. You know, the big one is the recapitalization of the Coast Guard. You know, we have a budget for the 9th NSC. I remember back in my tour when I started off as the budget officer for the Coast Guard, we were fighting for number 6. And if we thought we'd get number 6, that would be a great number for the Coast Guard to have. Well, we're just getting number 9 right now, but it just shows once you start building something, you know, sometimes it's hard to turn it off. But that's a great thing for the Coast Guard because we have to replace our high endurance cutters. The next comes the replacement of the medium endurance cutters, which are very old, and the replacement of those will be the offshore patrol cutter, which will get the down select for that. But anyway, those things. Those have high impacts on us because that's a high capital cost for us to work on. And then it's, we continue to bring on those, the national security cutters. We're also bringing on the fast response cutters. First one's going up into Cape May pretty soon, I think starting in 16, is the earliest one's there. So you'll see new assets coming on, but there continue to be pressure on the budget in order to pay for these, and as we do all the other things the Coast Guard needs to do to balance all those equities. So what that means is sometimes you'll see reductions in some of the structures, both on operations and on the support structure for the Coast Guard. And a lot of times, the Commodore's been there in the meetings that I have with staff, whenever somebody comes up with a shortfall, says, well, we're going to not be able to do this, you know, whether it be educational services officers, whether it be support at the sectors, doing different functions, you know, the first thing, you start to trim away some of these functions that are seen as nice to haves, but they really become important to the unit to be functioning. And so when somebody has to do it, I was just up in, most recently I was just up in Sector Philadelphia, and they have in Delaware Bay there. The first thing I come in, and I always come in, the first thing I usually see there is an auxiliarist when I walk in the door. And just wanted to let you know that some of those jobs we're always looking for, it's the auxiliary that comes in and fits those jobs that really make, it's the grease that makes a lot of the operations in the Coast Guard run in order to do that. So when you're thinking and hopefully the commanders that you have here and the staff on the gold side, the active duty side, hopefully they're giving you the proper, you know, thanks for doing those things that may seem like they're not, you know, that attractive or fun to do, you know, whether it be answering phones, working on filing, or doing some things. That really is important work for the active duty side to do that. And it really matters, and I think that the benefits that we get from those really benefits everyone in the service and allows us to continue to serve the nation. But those things really matter. And whenever we have a shortfall, I inevitably suggest, well, what can the auxiliary do for us? And sometimes it's, you know, the question is, well, I don't know, we haven't asked them. And that's why you learn that we need to ask, right? When we need something, when we need to function on the active duty side, we need to ask and say, what can the auxiliary do for us? Because I think it's really surprising all the talent that you have in the auxiliary. You know, sometimes I know the different, I'm not sure what's called, the bank, the skills bank, and those kind of things. But, you know, we have the skills bank and we have other things to list to do that. But a lot of times, we're just not articulating that need to the auxiliary to know that. So I think that really having those skills known to the active duty side is an important thing for us to do, and having those folks step forward to do that. And I also have to say is that I think that you know, as far as some of the satisfaction, I think you know, as I travel around too, as I travel throughout the 5th district. You know, what I'd like to see, especially at the station, you know, the support, you have some folks that have been doing that for years. Sometimes it's decades. Chris, don't you have, I mean, you had some in Virginia, right? Yeah, and Cape Charles is a great example, and I forgot the auxiliaries.
He's the retired.
Yeah, but there was, but anyway, but I think there, and I've seen in some of these smaller units, we have, our workforce is so young. I was just reminded, I wish I had Master Chief Pearson with me the other day, because I went to visit the Metruck Cutter Elm. And so I'm on the Elm, and I'm looking around, and I realized that, so I just asked a question. I said, well, how many of you were born before 1978? There's about 40, there's about 50 people. There's about 50 people in that crew. And you know how many, including myself, were born before 1978? 5. Out of that whole crew. So then I asked, and I looked at the ones that were born before 1978. I said, well, I'm thinking that you didn't join the Coast Guard in 1978, which is when I joined the Coast Guard. So the answer was none of those except Master. I think Master Chief was just entering into the Coast Guard. No, he wasn't. He wasn't even close to coming into the Coast Guard then. So anyway, and I know folks here have a lot longer memory than I do, and I've served a lot more than that. But that's when I came in, was in '78, and even back then the Coast Guard had the auxiliary was a great part of the Coast Guard. But what I'm saying is that it's that crew, how young they are, and they need a lot of mentoring. We do that on the active duty side. And I think that, especially the smaller units, the more you go down on that side, the more you're interacting with those young men and women, which are very talented, but from time to time they need some mentoring, and I think that's an important part that some auxiliaries that in those situations provide, and I think that's something we should value too, and I think we do value. I know that whenever I see, as I travel around again and visit units, I inevitably encounter more auxiliaries that are doing those support functions directly. So, and I think those are great things. And I also see the great things that as far as support for the operational side too. Continue to see that recreational boating safety, and especially in the places where we aren't on the inland waters and on the lakes and doing those missions. That's important to us too. And I think, for me, as I look at, whenever I look at my desk, and usually, what comes up to my desk a lot of times, it's been a long time since I was driving a small boat, except going out with somebody else driving it, or doing a different function. Usually I'm sitting there and I'm reviewing things that come to my desk, and a lot of times the things that come up are things that are really good, and things that are really bad, And so that's what you get at the highest levels. You look at things that are really, really good and things that are really, really bad. And sometimes just when you're doing that, you kind of looking through those materials, you kind of may forget what the Coast Guard does every day. But I think that's just something I want to mention, really, is everyone here, even though we're working on management every day, and I'm looking there and I'm figuring out, we take somebody to mast, and what are we going to do, and what are we going to do with the situation, or sending out I really concentrate on the things that we're doing and thinking about the mission, because that's what motivates all of us to put on the uniform, to get up. That's what's motivated me for, right now it's coming up on 38 years, to put on the uniform for 38 years, is what the mission of the Coast Guard is. And I think from time to time, if we ever forget that, and I think I just ask you, if you have a bad day, or say you have a situation where, it's like, oh man, it's another day, really think about that, of, what's a good day in the Coast Guard. What it matters is out in supporting operations. And if we're not supporting operations, then we're not, or I should say, if we're not successful in our operations, then all the work that you do, and all the work that we do on the gold side really doesn't matter if we're not successful in our operations. So that's what we exist for. And that's what all of us, that wear the uniform, that get up and put all those voluntary hours in, that's where it really matters. You don't get caught up in doing some of the staff work and things like that, or get bogged down by that. Because we always got to think that that's what we exist for. We exist for executing the mission and bringing that mission and meeting the needs of the nation. I think of Admiral Zimkov's words of service to nation, duty to people, commitment to excellence. And I think that's all of those, it's a perfect alignment of what the auxiliary does. And that service to nation, really, you as volunteers, is pretty amazing. And I really want to thank you for that, and really admire you for that. I always think that both for auxiliaries and reservists, I'll put reservists in there as well, it's so tough to serve all the other things that you have to do in order to serve. You got to make time for it, you got to make, there's a monetary commitment on your part too, everything's not reimbursed, we know that. That all that comes in, all that sacrifice that you put in, you all do that. I always question myself. If I wasn't in the Coast Guard, if I wasn't getting that paycheck for all that, how committed would I be to the service? So it's really something that I admire, both for the auxiliary and I'll say the reservists as well, on that side. All the sacrifices that you make. And the thing that, the two other things I want to talk about, and one is the recreational boating safety. So I'm going to get operational for a minute and just talk about this. It's something that's really troubling for me. As we sit back again, you see things, really good things that happen, you see really good, bad things that happen. That's the same true with things operationally as well. What do we see when I take the morning tactical brief is deaths within the area of responsibility here in the 5th District. Last year, it was deaths, I think, regarding drownings in the surf. That just seemed they were everywhere. I mean, we must have had last year almost 20 deaths, I think, from drownings. That's not direct connected to us, but it's just like people not being cautious and being around that. We always have our regular numbers doing that. And the deaths this year, the deaths this year are coming from duck hunters. And I just ask the auxiliary as an organization to think about that. Because we think about recreational boating safety happening between Memorial Day and Labor Day, traditionally, and like that. But I really want you to think about it, and I've asked my staff to really think about hunters. Is there anybody less prepared than a hunter? I mean, I was down in North Carolina. I was coming back in Oregon Inlet, from a great opportunity to go out and a little bit of surf down there. And which included, I'll have to say, Joe, a 80-degree roll. Yeah, that was a little interesting. But we're coming back and we saw a loaded down duck boat, and you're just thinking, they're all, I mean, I don't even know how you wear it, because you can't wear a PFD. What's the optimum solution to that problem set? You're weighted down, you're wearing that, and sometimes you're pulling things out of the water. The boats look fairly stable, but obviously they're not. We have real tragedy. I think Lonnie was in your AOR, that there were 3 23-year-olds out duck hunting in the morning, dropped one of them off on the shore, the other 2 went out. Whatever happened, they both went in the water, 1,000 yards offshore, and their friend watched them die right there in front of them as they drowned right there before help could come to them. I can't even imagine. I mean, it's so hard for the sector commanders to do those next of kin notifications in those cases. So I think that's something that should motivate us to try to think about that as a service and do something. A lot of you have great expertise in this, to think about, well, what's the best way to do this? I think next year we're going to do a program with some of the outdoor stores or something with that, so we can get them there to educate people about this and have a solution set for that. But that's something I really would challenge all of you operationally to think about and how to do that. I think also, and then the thing I would just want to leave you with also is really a focus on these, is going back to our core values. As I get ready to retire from the service, I really, probably not a day goes by when I don't think about the core values and looking at that and how it's applied. And I ask myself, are we applying those core values of honor, respect, and devotion to duty within the Coast Guard? On the active duty side, this continues to be something for us. We see those violations of our core values, and that's a pretty easy thing for us to correct, and for us, especially if we're using the military justice system to use as a guideline for us. And I think it's a moral compass for all of us to align with our core values of honor, respect, and devotion to duty. And really, what I think within the Coast Guard, I'm just asking all of you within the auxiliary as well, is to cultivate this culture of respect. In the active duty side, and some of you, if you're at the unit, you may see this, there's a big push for us because there's a whole continuum. And if you fail to respect each other, it develops into core value problems, but it also has an incredible effect upon each other. We should have an environment that's free of discrimination, harassment, and hazing. And that's something that should exist at all levels. And we talk about that. If you allow that to exist, those things to take place, in the worst case, especially on the active duty side, it can result in sexual assault. Because those kind of things, they can grow and you can develop, and you can get an environment that is unhealthy and for us to exist in. And that's something that I think, that all of us in the service that work in the Coast Guard can do better on that. And I think cultivating a cultural respect that starts in that one-on-one relationships. And we could disagree on things, but it really comes down to respecting each other's opinions, respecting diversity of opinions within within the Coast Guard. And then you can't go wrong when you do that. And taking care of each other and respecting each other and treating each other like you would want to be treated. You know, it's the classic golden rule example there. You know, for us in the active duty, we continue to have cases, you know, whether it be harassment and hazing and a sexual assault or cases of discrimination. But those things, we continue to work on that all the time. It's never a mission complete for us. It's something we always have to go back, we always have to work on, we always can do better in that realm. But it's something that continues to be a focus for us, and I think it should be a focus for the auxiliary as well. And you will probably see there's a couple things I'm working on. There'll probably be messages from me based on just, you know, I'm not quite out the door. I'm not going to say I'm out the door yet, but there's an exit coming up here down the road. I can see it. But you'll see from me because these things are really important to me. You know, I can tell you on the active duty side too is that, you know, the issue of domestic abuse, this goes back to this culture of respect. This is on the rise for some reason within the Coast Guard and has a tremendous effect on the individuals and families in the units where this takes place. You know, so those kind of things, they're not just, it's not just one side, it's not the auxiliary, a problem in the auxiliary, it's a problem, as I say, within the service for us to work as a service altogether. And so I'm open to new ideas and suggestions on ways to do that, but I'm asking all of you, you know, from your leadership positions and your positions to influence others, you know, both directly and you know, indirectly through the best ways to demonstrate through your own actions and try to live up to those core values. But with that, I want to thank you for everything that you've done, and I'm sure I'll see some of you around in the next coming months. April 22nd is my last day. It should be very exciting. Admiral Austin, Mary Austin, is coming back to the 5th District. She was the Sector Delaware commander. Some of you probably even, how many people know her already? There you go, you know her already. It's great. She's excited to be coming back to the 5th District. And she's coming from her time on the West Coast. And so it'll be great when she comes in. And she'll be taking over on the 22nd of April. So with that, I want to thank you. And I don't know if there's any questions. Do we have time for any questions? Is that, I don't want to take over your agenda.
We can make time for a couple, if there are.
Just if there's some questions, I don't want to leave without an opportunity, because usually I get a chance to circulate around and talk to folks and get an opportunity to interact with everyone. But since I won't be doing that tomorrow night, I just wanted to put that out there. So I'm going to take my prerogative to answer any questions if there's any questions.
I have one opinion. Metruck, when you were talking about the skill bank earlier, and we were discussing this in our sector meeting, how does the gold side go about utilizing the skill bank? Because we were trying to figure out, when you're looking for someone to fill a void, how do you get into that to do that? How does one of the stations get in to do that?
Go ahead.
I can answer that right now, because we're just doing that, but I mentioned John Galeazzi, who's our sector liaison, working with our auxiliary liaison officer, active gold side. We're actually using that bank and creating a spreadsheet by stations, by subunit to subunit, and we're talking to OICs and asking them, what do you need to be effective with auxiliary, and what kind of skills do you need? And we're filling out the spreadsheet and then working with auxiliary leadership to match those needs and make sure we fill those voids.
All right, because I'm working on the ICS 215 form, and it's been circulated out through Sector North Carolina stations. And I had things filled in there, but I asked them to fill in other things, and I got back a lot of zeros. So I really want to work closer with Captain Dufresne. I don't. I'm getting that situation rectified.
Well, that's a great question, though, because I think we just got to make sure that that's available out there. And again, that's a never-ending. You know, a lot of these things we do, it's not a one and done. You know, on an annual basis or whatever basis it is, we got to continue to keep refreshing and reminding us about those things. But If I was a sector commander, and I know that, you know, that I would keep the auxiliary liaison close to me and as I look at my needs. And I've actually suggested the auxiliary to the, who may not be may not know as much about it, they should, but it's the DCMS, Deputy Commandant for Mission Support, because they're not in the operations side, but they're in the support side, and they are getting cut in some cases much worse than we are. Or should I say equally, because I don't think they get cut as much as we do. Any other questions? That was good. Any other rumors? Anybody have any rumors?
You sign the line, we want to sleep auxiliary? Roll it.
So, all right, so thanks very much for your time, and I want to wish everyone a successful weekend. It looks like you're going to get some snow and stuff here, so hopefully everybody's here and surviving, and wishing you a great, successful D training. So, thanks.